Hello, ladies and gentlemen, it's Tom again. Today is a sort of maker video, but it is specifically towards dealing with a cold emergency. Our current cold snap is hitting a large portion of the United States, and it includes certain areas that didn't do so well last time, as their power grid fell, and yep, their power grid's falling again. And so here are a couple of options to help out that are simple, require no special tools at all. It is important to remember that when you're dealing with something like this, it's easiest to heat a small area instead of a large one. So if you need to create a warm space in your house, you pick the smallest room you have. And if you are really still struggling and you have a tent, you can put a tent in that room and you keep the doors to that room cold, and that way you have a sort of buffer. And you can put a blanket over your tent to create a layer of insulation, and then your tent will become your warm space. If you don't have a tent, you can try repurposing your dining room table or, erecting something, but we're not getting into a crazy build video here. We're doing simple stuff. Now, as a lot of people learned the hard way last year, you should not build a fire or use a charcoal grill or create a rocket stove out of a paint can or anything like that. It is insanely dangerous. You will have a carbon monoxide poisoning problem. We're using candle heat generators here. They are reasonably safe, and you're not going to hurt yourself really badly that way. So, step one is, well, what if I don't actually have a survival candle? Maybe you have some vegetable shortening and a can of Crisco and a birthday candle left over from a birthday cake that didn't get used. Now, I melted these down into canning jars and made my own emergency candles, but you don't even need to do that. You can take a birthday cake candle and just shove it into the center of a can of vegetable shortening, and there's your emergency candle. Pro tip, measure the side of your shortening, how deep that birthday cake candle has to go in. Because if this is sticking up past the top too much, you'll create a very big flame, and then bad things can happen. You don't want that. You want a nice controlled burn. This will last easily more than 24 hours. And every 3 to 4 hours, I think, you'll need to blow it out and just pour a little bit of the shortening out, because it will pool. It's too much fuel for that tiny wick, and it will end up smothering the wick. So once you have that, lighter or matches, you should have some in your house, even if you're not a smoker. And when you light that, well, you saw the flower pot trick, I'm sure, on the internet last year. We're doing the same thing. I do not have bricks to put around my candle like you probably saw in a lot of those videos, but I've got cans of black beans, and that will work. So here is my flower pot, and it will act as a sort of heat capacitor. The terracotta will absorb heat, and it will kind of gently disperse it through the room, creating a very smooth, even warmth. Over the top, I can feel heat pouring out of that. If you want to warm this pot up faster so it does its job better, you can put a quarter over that hole. Remember, that quarter is going to get hot, so don't touch it with your bare hands. In fact, oven mitts, once this thing starts getting up to temperature, is definitely a good idea. Now, because these stand up taller than my candle and I've got a nice wide area, I'll have plenty of air to feed my candle, and that will keep it burning. You don't have to worry about smothering it with your flower pot. And when you're done, you blow it out. The vegetable shortening candles do not smoke while burning, but when you blow the wick out, they usually put out a little bit of smoke. Now let's move those to the side. Here is a crushed tomatoes can. I've already punched the holes in the bottom in the first take of this video, and I didn't like the way that video worked, so sorry I don't have a second can ready to go. Doesn't matter. Point is, here is an old-fashioned bottle opener slash can opener. We all recognize this part. People from a certain age probably recognize this part, but not everybody else does. This is for punching holes in a can. You know, you used to pop the top of your can with Kool-Aid or whatever beverage it was and, you know, pour it out of the can like that. This time around, we're punching holes in the side of the can. I've put 4 holes in because, you know, just even spacing. And if you want more holes, well, then you can just go between your 4, and then it will be 8 holes. I don't see a need to do that, but, you know, if you wanted more, you could. And I take a regular candle like this. Now, I've already done this in the first take, but for the sake of demonstration purposes, the can sits pretty loose in there, and I don't want it to fall over. So what I do is I light it up, and I let it drip wax into the bottom of this can. And, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 drops of wax is fine. Then I blow it out. Now, the wax I've poured in there is already too cool to be useful. So then I take my lighter to the bottom of that can, and I get that wax nice and melty and hot and liquidy. And then I stick my candle in, and I give it about 30 seconds. It's already cooling. But as I do that, you know, I'm essentially gluing the candle into place. You can see it's already holding, and that makes it a little bit safer. It's probably not what a candlestick manufacturer would recommend, but it works. Now you may be thinking, Tom, why did you punch holes in the bottom of the can in the first place? Because I want to create a draft. Heat rises. There's going to be an upward airflow from that heat. This now has an air supply coming from the bottom, and you've created a draft similar to what a chimney does. And that will allow heat to flow more efficiently from your candle. At the same time, your metal walls will gently warm up and act as a heat capacitor, similar to the way the terracotta does. But because this is thin, it's not going to be nearly as efficient. If you don't have a large, stable can like this, you can use a smaller can. You know, it doesn't really matter too much. For safety purposes, you may want to try putting this inside of a 2-quart, you know, pot, or, you know, in the center of a frying pan or something nice and wide and heavy, so that if somehow it gets knocked over, it's just going to stay inside of that metal container and you don't have to worry about a fire. You still should have a fire extinguisher in your home, and when you're using things like this for heat generation, it is wise to have it nearby on standby at all times. But like I said, get yourself something with a nice stable base, put it inside of a pot if you have to, and you are far less likely to need that fire extinguisher. You can still set up your terracotta pot over this. You'll need something bigger than these black bean cans. You know, just pick a non-flammable material. You'll notice I've gone with metal here. You know, I've got glass holding this together. Terracotta obviously is not a very flammable material either. So good luck if you need this information now. And if you don't need this information now, I hope you retain it in the event that one day it might come in handy, and I hope that doesn't happen. But you at least have this information. Have a lovely day.